Welcome to the universe of natural mysteries, where science unravels nature's most intriguing enigmas. Get ready for a fascinating journey as we explore 9 extraordinary phenomena that defy our understanding. I'm João Pedro, and you're watching Curious Things, your destination for surprising discoveries and curious explorations. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more engaging content like this. 1. Fairy circles. Fairy circles are circular patches of land devoid of vegetation, ranging from 2 to 15 meters in diameter, usually surrounded by a ring of grass. Until 2014, it was known that the phenomenon occurred only in the arid regions of the Namib Desert, but this phenomenon also appears in Pilbara in Western Australia. Fairy circles typically occur in essentially monospecific grass vegetation, where conditions are particularly arid. The associated grasses are commonly species of the genus Stipagrostis. Studies show that these circles undergo a life cycle of about 30 to 60 years, reaching a peak diameter of perhaps 12 meters, after which they mature and die, as they are invaded, mainly by grasses. Of the various hypotheses about their origin, 2 are the strongest. One suggests that the clearings are the result of termite activity. The other says that these patterns result from the interaction between scarce water and plants. Over the years, scientists intrigued by these circles have gathered around these 2 hypotheses. By eliminating vegetation, termites favor the accumulation of water under sandy soil, something vital for their survival. The ring of vegetation around the clearings, which is actually what we call the fairy circle, appears because plants take advantage of this accumulation of water to grow, and grow more than the vegetation between the circles, thanks to a mechanism by which the roots seek water gradients, explains Bonacella, currently a researcher at the Scottish University of Strathclyde. 2. Ball lightning. A globular lightning, also known as ball lightning or globe lightning, is an unexplained atmospheric electrical phenomenon. The term refers to reports of spherical, luminous objects ranging in diameter from the size of a pea to several meters. It is typically associated with thunderstorms but lasts much longer than the split-second flash of ordinary lightning bolts. Many early reports state that the ball eventually explodes, sometimes with fatal consequences, leaving behind the smell of sulfur. Until the 1960s, most scientists argued that globular lightning was not a real phenomenon, despite numerous sightings worldwide and across different time periods. Laboratory experiments can produce effects that are visually similar to reported ball lightning, but it is still unclear if such phenomena are related. Scientific data on natural globular lightning is still scarce due to its rarity and unpredictability. The presumption of its existence is based on reported public sightings and has therefore yielded somewhat inconsistent results. Faced with such inconsistencies and a lack of reliable data, the true nature of ball lightning remains unknown. 3. Rain of fish. Residents of the Department of Uro, in central Honduras, benefit from a strange phenomenon that has surprised both inside and outside the country, although its origin is unknown for sure, the so-called rain of fish. The Regal Springs Fishing Company has been working with some area residents for 2 years to collect fish that residents say fall from the sky during storms, according to a news release. According to the company, whenever the phenomenon occurs, a family manages to collect approximately 10 kilos of fish. On average, families receive approximately $6 for each kilogram of fish. The company created the Heavenfish brand and guarantees that more than 60% of the population participates in some way in this activity. Whether as farmers, employees at the distribution center, fish collectors with nets or workers in processing and packaging, everyone involved in the production and distribution of derivative products are considered fishermen from the sky, according to the statement. Until you see it, you don't believe it. Those who haven't seen it will never believe, said a resident to the local press about the fish rain, which has been recorded in that region of the Latin American country for years. Residents reported that small silver fish, similar to sardines, fall from the sky at least once a year during the intense rains that hit the region between the last week of May and the first week of June. The inhabitants of Uro say it's a blessing, but there are meteorological hypotheses that could explain this phenomenon. John Knox, a scientist at the University of Georgia, told Smithsonian Magazine in 2015 that, although it's not a phenomenon they fully understand yet, it seems like a waterspout or tornado occurs somewhere. Something must happen to a lake that absorbs a quantity of fish or other material that is subsequently dumped elsewhere. CNN couldn't find official studies on the internet about the origins of the phenomenon or its impact on the local population, and the Secretaries of Agriculture and Natural Resources were consulted on the matter, but there has been no response so far. The local press in Honduras claims that the residents of Uro attribute the famous fish rain to the intercession of Father Manuel de Jesus Subarana, a Spanish missionary who prayed that the people of Uro wouldn't lack food. Despite the different explanations about the origin of the fish, the residents of Uro can now collect and commercialize the fish. It's a tangible benefit of this phenomenon for a community where the estimated annual per capita income is just over $3,000, 15,000 Brazilian reals, per year, according to the socio-demographic profile of Uro published by the National Autonomous University of Honduras in 2022. Regal Springs, Honduras has provided its partners with the necessary tools to collect, clean, and transport the fish to centers where it's packaged for marketing with a designation of origin. Thanks to the production of new products, as well as merchandise, the locals will receive financial support of 80% of the generated sales, indicates a statement from the company. Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis. The aurora borealis is an optical phenomenon that occurs in the northern hemisphere. The aurora borealis is a phenomenon characterized by the formation of colored lights in the sky. The occurrence of this phenomenon is linked to the interaction between solar winds and chemical elements, especially in the layer of the atmosphere called the thermosphere. The aurora borealis only occurs in the northern hemisphere of the planet. The aurora australis occurs in locations in the extreme south of the southern hemisphere. Aurora borealis occurs due to the chemical interaction between solar winds and atmospheric gases present in the thermosphere. It exhibits highly diverse characteristics in terms of light and shape due to the various chemical interactions that occur in the atmosphere during its formation. It occurs in locations across the United States, Canada, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. The phenomenon of the aurora is called the aurora australis if it occurs in locations located at the extreme south of the southern hemisphere of planet Earth. Brazil is located in a zone of low and medium latitude, therefore it is not possible to observe the occurrence of the aurora borealis in the country. What is the aurora borealis? The aurora borealis is an optical phenomenon characterized by the formation of luminous patterns in the sky, with diverse colors and shapes, that occur during the night. It develops in the thermosphere and can be observed at a minimum altitude of 60 kilometers. 5. The Flowery Desert. A new national park in Chile will protect and delimit, for visitors, one of the most beautiful and rare phenomena of Atacama, the Desierto Florido, a flowering that colors the traditionally inhospitable landscapes of the driest and highest desert in the world. The Desierto Florido National Park was announced by President Gabriel Boric in October 2022 and should open to tourists and the Chilean public in the second half of 2023, according to information from the Lonely Planet Guide. The flowers appear in the middle of the Atacama thanks to a specific climatological phenomenon, El Niño, which causes the waters of the equatorial Pacific to heat up, resulting in a greater volume of rain in the desert during the southern winter. As a consequence, the following spring, between September and November, the dormant seeds in the local lands blossom, according to information from the National Tourism Service in Atacama to the Argentine newspaper Clarín. However, thanks to global warming, flowering that was rare, occurring every 5 or 10 years, has become increasingly frequent. 6. Volcanic lightning. The volcanic lightning is an electric discharge caused by a volcanic eruption and not by a common storm. Volcanic lightning arises from the collision and fragmentation of volcanic ash particles, and sometimes ice, which generate static electricity within the volcanic plume, leading to the name dirty thunderstorm. Wet convection currents and ice formation also drive the dynamics of the eruption plume and can trigger volcanic lightning. Unlike common storms, volcanic lightning can also occur when there are no ice crystals in the ash cloud. The first recorded observations of volcanic lightning are from Pliny the Younger, describing the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. There was a more intense darkness made more terrifying by the intermittent gleam of the torches at intervals obscured by the transient flash of lightning. The first studies of volcanic lightning were also conducted on Mount Vesuvius by Luigi Palmieri, who observed the eruptions of 1858, 1861, 1868, and 1872 at the Vesuvius Observatory. These eruptions generally included electrical activity. It is believed that ice loading plays a significant role in certain types of eruption plumes, particularly those rising above freezing level or involving magma-water interaction. Common thunderstorms produce lightning through ice loading as water clouds become electrified by the collision of ice crystals and other hydrometeors. Volcanic plumes can also transport abundant water. This water originates from magma, vaporized from surrounding sources such as lakes and glacier, and entrained from the ambient air as the plume rises through the atmosphere. One study suggested that the water content of volcanic plumes may be higher than that of storms. Water is initially transported as hot vapor, which condenses into liquid in the updraft column and eventually freezes into ice if the plume cools well below zero. Some eruptions even produce volcanic hail. Support for the ice loading hypothesis includes the observation that lightning activity greatly increases when volcanic plumes rise above freezing level, and evidence that ice crystals at the top of the volcanic cloud anvil are effective charge carriers. 7 Dark Day 1780. In the midst of the Revolutionary Wars for U.S. independence, 1775 to 1783, the states of New England, northwest of the current country, including Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut and Rhode Island, witnessed a frightening phenomenon, the darkening of the sky in broad daylight. The event, also visible in southeastern Canada, lasted almost a day and led to great social fear. According to reports from the time, on that May 19, 1780, candles were necessary to see in the middle of the day. The darkness, which took over from Maine to New Jersey, became known as the Dark Day, which would have lasted until the middle of that night. The first report that noticed this bizarre darkening occurred in New York, where there was a lack of natural lighting since sunrise. In Massachusetts, the phenomenon has been reported since 10 a.m., but in general, the peak of darkness was noticed at noon, when it really seemed like it was the middle of the night. In some cities, the peak lasted until 5:30 p.m. Even if, for example, at Harvard, a dissipation of the event was noticed after 1 p.m., the day remained densely cloudy and with poor lighting until time passed. As a consequence, the environment in general experienced abnormalities, as occurs in cases of eclipses. Confused birds flew around, roosters crowed in the middle of the day and frogs became active much earlier than usual. 8. Pink balloon on the high seas. Upon finding a large pink mass floating on the shores of Bunbury, Australia, Mark Watkins thought he had just seen a boat or a hot air balloon, due to its bloated shape. More closely, the fisherman was able to identify that mysterious image was, in fact, a dead whale. Whales' stomachs are usually full of gases during their lives, but the phenomenon that Mark witnessed is not common. When floating on the surface of the sea after death, the animal's abdomen came into contact with the sun's rays, which caused its stomach swelled. In cases like this, the whale's body can even explode quite impressively. In a report for the West Australian, Mark says that he saw some sharks attracted by the animal's fluids in the ocean later. The species of the whale has not been identified, but it is likely to be a humpback or southern right whale, common in this region. 9. Mass deaths of antelopes. In 2015, over 200,000 antelopes died within just 3 weeks in the central region of Kazakhstan, Asia. The bodies were found in an area of approximately 20 square kilometers. The animals appeared to have died unexpectedly. Calves were found next to their mothers, indicating they were feeding. Saiga antelopes, Saiga tatarica, migrate to the steppes of Kazakhstan during their calving season. At the time, scientists identified the cause of death as hemorrhagic septicemia, caused by the bacterium Pasteurella multocida type B. Now, a new study, recently published in the journal Science Advances, claims that the rapid and lethal proliferation of the bacterium among the antelopes was caused by abnormal increases in humidity and temperature in the area. The mass deaths occurred in May, and days before the tragedy, the temperature reached 37 degrees Celsius and humidity was at 80%, something completely unusual for Central Asia. During this event, it is estimated that 60% of the Saiga tatarica population died. Prior to this, the species was already considered critically endangered by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN. According to the researchers of the study, including Richard Koch from the Royal Veterinary College in London, who analyzed the dead antelopes in Kazakhstan in 2015, the bacterium Pasteurella multocida is normally found in the nasal cavity of this species. At normal temperatures, it is harmless. However, with the abnormal heat, it enters the bloodstream and becomes lethal. There were 2 other episodes of mass antelope deaths in Kazakhstan. One in 1981, when again, within a few days, 70,000 individuals died. And in 1988, another 200,000 unexpectedly died. By analyzing the temperature in these 2 years, researchers were able to establish a pattern. In all events, there was an abnormal increase in temperature. Unfortunately, antelopes are not the only animals threatened by mass mortality due to climate change. Other species face the same risk. In 2016, a pandemic of bleaching affected corals worldwide, severely affecting the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, the largest reef system in the world. In the same year, corals in the Maldives also turned white. The phenomenon was described as a silent and large-scale environmental catastrophe. A study published on the Nature Journal website revealed that 91% of Australian reefs were affected to some extent by the syndrome. Bleaching occurs when some stress, usually thermal, causes the coral to expel microscopic algae that live in symbiosis with it. These algae, called zooxanthellae, are the coral's main source of food and give it color. When the sea gets too warm, they leave. The coral starves and becomes more susceptible to diseases. In many cases, it dies. The first coral bleaching event was recorded by scientists in 1998, when approximately 15% of the world's reefs died due to ocean warming. That year, it was discovered that the tragedy was caused by El Niño, a phenomenon caused by the slowing of the trade winds, which blow in the region near the equator. Without them, heat intensifies in the oceans as waters do not circulate. And so, our journey through the most bizarre natural phenomena comes to an end. We hope you have been captivated and inspired by these wonders of nature, which continue to challenge and surprise even the most seasoned scientists. If you liked this video, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Curious Things for more fascinating explorations. Until the next discovery.